My name is Rudy Herr, and I want to welcome you to Life Group Leader Training. And today I would like to talk to you about something very near and dear to my heart that I think is extremely important as life group leaders that we master. It's the art and science of listening. Julian Treasure, listening guru that you can catch on TED Talks, says that we spend 60% of our lives listening but only retain about 25% of what we hear. In other words, there is a big difference between hearing and listening. We spend most of our mental energy when someone is speaking, evaluating it from our own reference point, trying to come up with our own presentation of ourselves, planning what we're going to say, or controlling the conversation. That hurts our listening abilities. So it starts with the motivation behind the listening, or the why. And the why must be for us to love our neighbor as ourselves. Jesus said, "By this all men will know that you are my disciples if you have love." And it starts with listening. Being listened to is as close to being loved for the average person that they are almost indistinguishable, David Augsburger says. Why? Because by listening, you are able to show empathy and you are able to connect with people. I believe that Paul Tillich, a German philosopher, theologian, said it well when he said, "The first duty of love is to listen." Chuck Swindoll says, "How long will it be before we realize that others won't care how much we know until they know how much we care?" If we really want to be blessed, prefer compassion to information. We need both, but Chuck Swindoll says in the right order. If we want to have a positive and deep impact on people, we must learn how to listen. And it truly is an art and a science. And it truly does take great effort. It goes against our selfish nature. We want to be listened to rather than listen to. Pure listening is a letting go of control. And perhaps that's what's so difficult. We can't control the conversation, but we need to learn to listen and to pick up what people are saying. Edgar Watson Howe says, "No man would listen to us talk if you didn't know it was his turn next." And I think he's right. Using our listening skills well will lead us to a life of influencing others. And isn't that what we want to do? Leadership at its core is having influence in people's lives. And that's what we must learn to do, is to listen. So now I want to share with you about the impact of listening, because that's the driving force that's going to work within our hearts to make us and help us to listen better. First of all, number one, listening shows respect and honor. Paul said, in humility, count others as more significant than yourself. And by the way, have you ever tried coaching someone who already knew all the answers? They weren't really coachable. Waste of time, right? Great example of not being able to listen well. So what I want to challenge us to do is to be impressed and interested, not impressive and interesting. Make it about the other person, not about us. 2, listening increases knowledge, which can lead to a greater understanding, and that is our goal. We want to understand the person's heartbeat. We want to understand what they're going through. 3, listening generates deeper conversation. It grows trust. You really do care about me, that person will think. And I could share with you the things that are in my heart. Dale Carnegie said, "You can make more friends in 2 weeks by becoming a good listener than you can in 2 years trying to get other people interested in you." 4, listening builds intimacy. When we're listened to, we feel valued, we feel cherished, we feel known by them, that they truly care. And isn't this really our deep longing in marriage that we often don't do a good job of? To feel that we have someone who really knows us and who wants to understand us. But I have a warning. There's one common problem: as people gain more authority, they often listen to others less and less. They in other words, get filled with themselves and think what they have to say is more important. 5, listening can often lead people to understanding and reconciliation. It's amazing what can happen when someone can talk out loud and hear themselves talk, and hear what they're saying and begin to understand their problem. And all you did was listen. So here are some common barriers to listening. Number one, overvaluing talking, being preoccupied more with yourself. Abraham Lincoln said, "When I'm getting ready to reason with a man, I spend 1/3 of my time thinking about myself and what I'm going to say, and 2/3 thinking about him and what he's going to say." Two, a barrier is we miss what is not being said. Peter Drucker says the most important thing in communication is to hear what isn't being said. So I remind you, the communication package is not just words, it's body language and it's tone of voice, and we need to pay attention to those things. The third barrier is experiencing mental distraction. Boy, and does your environment have a lot to do with how good a listener you will be. Too many conversations maybe swirling around you, too much on your mind, or the technology that is in front of you that can be a distraction. Put that phone away. The fourth thing is the short attention spans that we all have. In fact, it's getting worse and worse. Most of us pay attention for at the longest 10 seconds. We're a culture that's been conditioned to short sound bites. So that's working against us. Finally, I want to talk to you about what great listeners do. They first of all pray for the Holy Spirit's help. After all, Jesus said He'd sent us the Holy Spirit to help us. And what more than help that we need through the Holy Spirit to listen well? Second, we listen with our eyes, because eyes convey warmth and care. I really care about what you have to say. Have you ever been in a conversation with a person who was constantly looking over your shoulder? Yeah, you remember. You shut down because you knew they didn't care. 3, pay attention to what's not being said. In other words, you will get a lot from their tone of voice and their body language, which honestly conveys as much, even more so than the words themselves. 4, resist your desire to interrupt sometime. Let them finish their sentences. Don't finish their sentences for them. At times, you might help them find the right word. And when you do, they will feel like you're really listening. 5, focus on understanding, not responding. And therein lies the key, that you understand what it is that they are saying. Repeat back to them what you think you are hearing them say. That is a great tool to further understanding. 6, ask questions that will lead to deeper understanding. This takes time and practice, but it's worth it. Asking good questions will lead to deeper understanding. In a study on the differences between great and average listeners, researchers found that people who ask questions that promote insight and discovery are perceived as being good listeners. This is a key indicator that you are listening well. If you are able to say, "How did that make you feel? Am I truly understanding what you have to say?" 7, make people feel heard. Research shows that people who feel listened to are more likely to engage in further interactions with you. And that's what we're aiming for. To speak is to transmit, but to truly listen is to connect. And that's our win. We want people to feel connected to. So I challenge you to look at your ability to listen. How well are you doing it? And I hope you've been challenged, and I hope you've been given some tools to go to work and become a good listener. God bless you in the effort.